Ever met someone who sounds a little too nice, but your gut whispers, liar? They don't admit lies. They disguise them. And the worst part? They don't just lie with words. They lie with questions. Today, I'm going to expose the 5 dangerous questions liars ask you. And once you know them, you'll never be manipulated again. Because queens don't play chess with pawns. Let's go. Why don't you trust me? Ah, the manipulator's classic, the sentence that comes coated in sweetness but hides venom underneath. It sounds innocent, almost pitiful, like they are the victim. But don't get it twisted. This isn't a real question. It's a tactic. A way to shift the spotlight off their lies and place the blame onto your doubt. You see, in real relationships, whether it's love, friendship, or even professional, trust is never asked for. It's earned. Brick by brick, word by word, action by action. But a liar, they skip the earning part. They want the privileges of trust without the responsibilities of truth. Imagine this. You find messages on your partner's phone. They don't look innocent. Your gut is screaming. But instead of explaining, they look you dead in the eye and say, "Why don't you trust me?" Boom. Now you're on the defense. Now you feel guilty. Now you're questioning your mind. And they get away again. This is emotional warfare. A manipulator uses this question to paint themselves as the honest one, the misunderstood one, the good guy. They want you to think the problem is your trust issues, not their dishonest behavior. And guess what? It works. Because we've been trained, especially as women, to doubt ourselves before we doubt others. To give the benefit of the doubt, to keep peace, to avoid being too much. But let me tell you something powerful today. Your intuition is not a weakness. It's your warning signal. In fact, this exact line shows up not just in romantic relationships, but in workplaces too. You bring up a concern to your manager. "Can we go over it?" They chuckle and reply, "Don't you trust me?" Translation: they don't want accountability. They want blind obedience. But you were hired to think, not to shrink. You have every right to ask, to verify, to clarify. That's not distrust. That's intelligence. Let me break it down further with a family example. A parent tells a child, "Why don't you trust me?" when the child questions a promise broken again and again. Maybe dad said he'd show up to the game. Maybe mom said this time she'd keep her word. But the kid learns. Promises mean nothing. Guilt means everything. That child grows up thinking that asking questions makes them disrespectful. And that's how generational manipulation begins. So let me be bold today and say this. Anyone who gets offended when you question their integrity is not operating with integrity. Because a person who's truly honest will say, "Ask me anything. Here's what really happened. I understand your concern." You don't have to beg for honesty from someone who values truth. And when someone drops, "Why don't you trust me?" pause, breathe, and look deeper. Are they trying to earn your faith, or are they trying to control your doubt? Every queen, every boss, every person with self-respect must learn this truth. Guilt is not proof of your disloyalty. It's often a shield used by those who fear exposure. People who carry honesty don't mind being questioned because they walk in truth. But people who live in lies, they fear your curiosity like fire fears the wind, because the moment you ask, the curtain falls. So the next time someone says, "Why don't you trust me?" you look them in the eye with calm fire in your soul and say, "I trust actions, not words, and definitely not guilt trips." Are you really going to believe them over me? That sentence sounds so desperate, so personal, so emotional. But don't be fooled. This isn't about truth. This is about control. This is the divide and rule tactic, a favorite weapon of manipulators and liars. When they sense the truth creeping in, they don't defend themselves with facts. They attack your alliances. They try to isolate you from the people who still have clear vision, from the voices that might wake you up from their illusion. It's not a question, it's a trap. Because now it's not just about whether they lied, now it's about your loyalty. They want to flip the script. That's not a defense. That's an attack. He's not clearing his name. He's turning you against your ally. Now you're stuck. You don't want to lose your partner, but you also don't want to accuse your friend of lying. So what happens? You freeze. You doubt the person who brought you truth, because the liar made you question loyalty before you could process reality. This is emotional chess, and they're playing with your heart as the board. And this isn't limited to romantic relationships. Let's talk workplace politics. You notice a colleague getting credit for your work. You bring it up to your manager. That colleague finds out, and instead of addressing the issue, they come at you. "Wow, are you seriously going to believe them over me? After all the projects we've done together?" There it is again. The shift. The spotlight is no longer on the issue. It's on you. They don't need to be right. They just need you to question everyone else long enough for them to escape the truth. Even in families this plays out. You catch a sibling in a lie, but your mother defends them, saying, "You're really going to believe outsiders over your own blood?" And just like that, truth loses to tribe. Reality loses to guilt. And you lose your voice trying to keep peace. But here's the truth that people need to hear. Real loyalty does not require blindness. If someone expects you to turn off your intuition, silence your voice, and disconnect from every person who sees the red flags you're ignoring, that's not loyalty they're asking for. That's control. Loyalty is standing beside someone who is honest, even when the truth is uncomfortable. Manipulation is asking you to defend a lie because the liar wore a familiar face. You have every right to listen to the facts, to weigh the evidence, to ask questions. Because when someone is truly innocent, they welcome the truth. But when someone's lying, the truth feels like betrayal. The most dangerous liars are not the ones who lie with words. They're the ones who lie by turning you against every person who could save you from the lie. So, when someone looks you in the eye and says, "Are you really going to believe them over me?" Ask yourself this: why do they fear what the other person said? Why are they more interested in who you believe than in proving what's true? Because anyone who truly values you will fight for the truth, not just their version of it. Why are you overreacting? Those 5 words are a masterclass in emotional manipulation, soft in tone, sharp like a knife. This isn't just a question, it's a trigger, a gaslighter's weapon. It doesn't soothe you, it silences you. It doesn't calm the storm, it causes an internal hurricane, one where you start second-guessing your own reality. The worst part? It works. Because now you're not focusing on what happened, you're too busy wondering if you're crazy for even feeling anything. Gaslighters thrive in this space. They create chaos, then blame you for the mess. They break boundaries, then act confused when you call it out. Why are you overreacting? Is not about you reacting. It's about them dodging accountability. Take a simple example from a relationship. You tell your partner, "Hey, I didn't like how you dismissed me in front of your friends. That felt disrespectful." Instead of listening or apologizing, they smirk and say, "God, why are you overreacting? It was just a joke." And now your mind spins. You think, was it just a joke? Am I too sensitive? Am I the problem? But no. What they did hurt you. That feeling was real, but they erased it with 5 words. That's gaslighting in its purest form. They injure you, then shame you for bleeding. Now, let's take this into family dynamics. Maybe you grew up in a home where every time you expressed emotion, especially as a woman, they said you were being dramatic. You raised your voice, they called it disrespect. You cried, they said, toughen up. You questioned something unfair, they said, you're being too much. And so you learned to shrink, to doubt every feeling, to package your pain in silence, because speaking made you emotional and unreasonable. But here's the truth. Feeling deeply is not a weakness. Reacting to disrespect is not overreacting. Your voice is valid. Your emotions are data. Your boundaries are not up for debate. Let's flip to the professional world now. Imagine you're in a meeting. A colleague talks over you again, after doing it multiple times before. You calmly say, "Hey, can I finish my point?" And suddenly they laugh it off and say, "Whoa, no need to overreact, relax." That moment right there isn't harmless, it's strategic. It's a way to paint you as emotional and themselves as cool under pressure. It's how women get labeled as unstable, how passionate people get called difficult, how truth tellers get gaslighted into silence. So here's what you do. You don't shrink, you stand taller. Because someone who tells you you're overreacting isn't trying to understand your pain, they're trying to dismiss it. They want to win the argument, not resolve the issue. They want to be right even when they're wrong. Real love, real friendship, real leadership doesn't say, why are you overreacting? It says, help me understand why you feel this way. It listens, it learns, it grows. The moment you start trusting your feelings over someone else's excuses, everything changes. You stop needing approval to validate your truth. You stop editing your emotions to keep others comfortable. You stop apologizing for reacting to pain that you didn't cause. Because your feelings are not overreactions. They are signals. They are protection. They are your power. Don't you love me? Those words should feel warm, but in the wrong hands, they cut like a blade. This isn't a question, it's emotional blackmail, wrapped in sweetness. It doesn't seek love, it demands obedience. It's not about your feelings, it's about their control. Because when someone says, don't you love me? Right after you've set a boundary, expressed pain, or stood up for yourself, they're not asking for love. They're using love as a weapon. And the trap is deep. Because you do love them. Maybe it's your partner, your parent, your sibling, your best friend, people who know you care. They know exactly how to flip your heart against your own truth. They don't have to threaten you. They just raise the guilt. Suddenly you're not thinking about what they did. You're busy proving that you love them. Picture this. You finally decide to say no to something unreasonable. Maybe your partner asks you to cancel your own plans just to be with them again, even though they cancel on you all the time. You calmly say, no, I've made plans. I need this time for myself. And what do they say? Don't you love me? And instantly, your strength begins to crumble. Because love is your softest spot. And they know it. They pull on it like a puppet string, hoping you'll feel too guilty to stand your ground. This happens in families too. A toxic parent who refuses to respect your space, or boundaries might call and demand your time, your attention, your energy, without ever once checking in on your well-being. And when you express your exhaustion, they sigh and say, after everything I've done for you, don't you love me? Translation, your love should make you sacrifice yourself for me. But love is not supposed to be a leash. Let's talk about friendships. Maybe you've outgrown, maybe the friendship has become one-sided. You've tried to have a conversation, you've tried to heal it, but every time you step away, they say, wow, after all these years, don't you love me? As if love means tolerating pain forever. As if your loyalty is measured by how much you're willing to lose yourself for them. Here's what they won't tell you. Love is not supposed to be proof of submission. It's not a receipt for obedience. It's not a currency you exchange for silence or sacrifice. Real love listens when you say, I need space. Real love respects your no. Real love doesn't guilt you for taking care of yourself. You see, emotional blackmail doesn't wear a villain's face. It wears the face you love most. That's what makes it so dangerous. It makes you question your worth, your boundaries, your clarity, and you start negotiating your truth just to avoid feeling like a bad person. But here's the truth they can't manipulate. You can love someone and still say, that's not okay. You can love someone and still walk away from manipulation. You can love deeply and still choose yourself. Because real love doesn't hold you hostage. It doesn't say prove it by staying silent. It doesn't whisper show me by sacrificing your joy. It doesn't demand your freedom in the name of connection. Sometimes the most loving thing you can say is, I do love you, but I love myself too. And if that makes someone feel unloved, then what they wanted wasn't love. It was control dressed in affection. It was power disguised as need. It was emotional blackmail wearing the mask of intimacy. Can we talk later? At first glance, it seems harmless, polite, even respectful. But when used repeatedly by someone who owes you clarity, who knows they've hurt you, who sees the storm in your eyes, but still says, later. It's not about timing. It's about appearing composed. It's about keeping you waiting in emotional limbo, knowing that the longer they stall, the more your fire burns out, the more your questions soften into silence. This isn't a real pause. It's a power move. Because here's what they're really doing. They're creating space, not to reflect, not to heal, but to escape. To push the conversation far enough that your feelings become easier to dismiss. And if you dare bring it up again later, you'll hear, why are you still holding on to that? I thought we moved past it. Let's look at how this plays out in a romantic relationship. You finally get the courage to confront your partner about something that's been eating at your peace. Maybe they've been cold. Maybe there are lies you've noticed. You say, we need to talk. They look at you and respond with a casual, can we talk later? I'm just tired. You pause. You want to believe it's about exhaustion. But days pass. Later becomes not now. Not now becomes I forgot. And suddenly, your pain is on mute while they live on loud. This is how manipulation breathes. Through delay and deflection. They give you false hope that the conversation will happen, just not now. And in that waiting room, your emotions begin to rot. You start feeling crazy for even wanting answers. And that's the real goal, to wear you down just enough that you give up before the truth ever gets spoken. Now apply this to a work environment. You bring up unfair treatment, extra responsibilities dumped on you without recognition, or your ideas being dismissed. You ask for a moment to address it. Your manager smiles and says, absolutely. Can we talk later? But that later never comes. And every time you remind them, it's met with, yes. Yes, I've just been swamped. Meanwhile, projects continue. Deadlines pass. The moment of truth disappears behind a smokescreen of busy. friendships too, this tactic is alive. You tell a friend, what you said the other day really hurt me. They nod, shrug, and respond, can we talk later? I'm not in the right headspace right now. But days go by, then weeks. And when you bring it up again, suddenly you're the one who can't let things go. You're the one making it a big deal. But here's the deal. If someone truly values your feelings, later, they don't let your pain sit unattended. They don't postpone healing because it's inconvenient for them. Because mature people don't delay accountability. They walk into it. There's a difference between needing time to collect your thoughts and intentionally dodging the moment that demands your truth. One builds bridges, the other builds walls. Let's be clear. Every time you're met with, can we talk later? Especially after pain, betrayal, or disrespect, you must watch what follows. If that later never comes, understand this. You're not dealing with someone who's overwhelmed. You're dealing with someone who's unavailable to your truth. Don't sit in emotional purgatory, waiting for people who only reply when it benefits them. Don't let their silence rewrite your story. Don't let delay become denial. You deserve presence. You deserve resolution. You deserve someone who says, let's talk now. Because your heart matters to me more than my comfort. Because anyone can say later, but only the brave show up now. Your power is not in how much you can give, bend, or sacrifice. Your true power lies in knowing this one truth. You don't owe anyone your peace. Not your partner, not your boss, not your family, not even the people who once carried you through storms. Because peace is not a gift you hand out, it's a home you build within. And not everyone deserves a key to that home. There comes a point when you realize that protecting your peace isn't selfish, it's sacred. It's not cold, it's courageous. And you don't have to explain that to anyone who constantly drains you. You ever notice how the people who disrupt your peace the most are always the first to call you too sensitive when you speak up? The ones who constantly cross your boundaries are also the ones who act shocked when you finally build a wall. Imagine this. You're in a relationship where you're always walking on eggshells. You give more chances than they deserve. You forgive more than they even apologize for. Every argument ends with you saying sorry, even when you're the one in tears. And the day you finally sit in silence instead of pleading for understanding, they say, you've changed. Yes, you did. You stopped renting out your peace like a cheap motel to people who never stayed to clean up their mess. Or take the workplace. You're constantly overworking, taking calls at midnight, doing more than your role demands, just to prove you're valuable. And yet, one day you ask for a mental health break and your boss raises an eyebrow. You seemed fine, they say. No, you were functioning through fatigue. You were smiling through burnout. You were bleeding quietly. Until you weren't. You don't owe that kind of breakdown to anybody. Just because you can handle chaos doesn't mean you should. Just because you're strong doesn't mean you're a dumpster for other people's emotional trash. Some people confuse access with entitlement. They think because they've known you for years, they're allowed to dump their negativity on you, guilt you, or interrupt your healing. But time doesn't equal rights. Length of relationship doesn't mean they own a part of your soul. History doesn't give them a license to hurt you repeatedly. And when you finally start protecting your energy, standing tall in your no, choosing silence over drama, distance over dysfunction, they say you're being rude, detached, even arrogant. But no one notices the years you were breaking inside just to keep others comfortable. That's what society doesn't teach you. Being at peace will often look like rebellion to those who fed on your chaos. Your peace is not an inconvenience. It is not too much. It is not negotiable. You are allowed to hang up the phone on toxicity. You are allowed to decline invitations to arguments you didn't RSVP for. You are allowed to say, I love you, but I love myself more. You are allowed to leave tables where your soul isn't fed. You don't owe explanations for protecting your mental space. You don't owe apologies for growing out of people's reach. You don't owe anyone the version of you that never said no. This world will keep taking until you stop giving. It will drain your spirit in the name of being nice. But nice isn't the goal. Peace is. Because when you stop defending your right to peace and start owning it, you become dangerous in the best way. You become untouchable by gossip, unshaken by rejection, unmoved by manipulation. There is nothing more powerful than a person who refuses to hand their peace to chaos, no matter who brings it. So now you know. Their words were never just questions, they were weapons. Dressed in politeness, wrapped in love, but sharpened with intention. Why don't you trust me? Are you really going to believe them over me? Why are you overreacting? Don't you love me? Can we talk later? These weren't just conversations, they were traps. And the moment you saw through them, everything began to shift. Because here's the truth they don't want you to know. The moment you stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you, you rise. The moment you stop chasing closure from those who benefit from your confusion, you evolve. The moment you take your peace back, piece by piece, from every hand that tried to hold it hostage, you begin to reign. You are not here to be someone's emotional punching bag, someone's guilt receptacle, someone's midnight convenience or silence puppet. You were not born to shrink in the presence of people who only clap when you're bleeding for them. You are not hard to love, you are hard to manipulate. And that's why they try to convince you that love must come with confusion, with guilt, with sacrifice that only flows one way. But love that is real doesn't gaslight. It doesn't delay truth. It doesn't divide you from those who protect your peace. It doesn't use love as a leash. And it damn sure doesn't make you question your sanity. Let them call you cold for walking away. Let them say you've changed. Let them gossip about the version of you they can no longer access. Because peace looks like pride to people who never knew how to treat you with respect. You don't owe loyalty to someone who feeds on your self-doubt. You don't owe one more chance to someone who broke you on repeat. You don't owe softness to someone who only shows up when it benefits them. You owe you something. Your peace, your clarity, your truth. They asked, why don't you trust me? Answer, because I finally trust myself. They asked, why are you overreacting? Answer, because underreacting nearly destroyed me. They asked, don't you love me? They asked, don't you love me? You wrote me. 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 They asked, don't you love me? Answer, yes, but not at the cost of abandoning myself. They said, can we talk later? Answer, no. The time for lies has expired. My silence now speaks volumes. They begged, are you really going to believe them over me? Answer, I believe patterns, and yours have been loud long before I listened to anyone else. This is your power now, the unapologetic audacity to choose peace over pressure, growth over guilt, truth over ties. You were never crazy, you were conditioned. You were never too much, you were too aware. You were never overreacting, you were finally responding. So to every soul listening to this, let me say this as loud as the pain once echoed inside you. You are not here to fix what you didn't break. You are not here to carry what you didn't drop. And you are not here to make excuses for people who keep proving they don't deserve you. The moment you feel like you have to prove your worth to someone is the moment you walk away. People don't abandon the people they love. They abandon the people they were using. You were born to be real, not perfect. To be loved, not manipulated. To be heard, not silenced. Sometimes walking away has nothing to do with weakness and everything to do with strength. You are not healing to be softer for others. You are healing so no one ever gets to break you the same way twice. Let them talk. Let them twist your truth. Let them rewrite their role in your story. But you keep rising. Because once you reclaim your peace, the world begins to fear the power of your presence.